are back once again here at the desk for the NAL Rainbow Six. Wow. I'm going to go take a nap after this one. Don't worry. Thanks. It's not my birthday either. But it is Jesse's birthday. No, that's Jacob over there as well. We're about to go into Soniqs versus Oxygen. But before we do, let's review a little bit of the day so far. It's been two very one-sided games. And then we had a really close one, actually, between DZ and Xset just now. It's been a fun day, but I feel like as we look at this one, no surprises yet really on the day.
No, I've had all of my predictions correct. I think we've all had predictions correct, and the coin's been wrong every time, which is nice. So
we're keeping up.
We're dethroning that thing finally.
The coin is very kind. I mean, ultimately at the end of the stage, like if it goes like it should, the coin should be like at basically 50%, right?
Hopefully, right. Yeah,
I mean, that's expected.
It'll be cool when we get to like stages 2 and 3, and then we'll see if it also hit about that 50% marker, or if it really got a power boost of some kind as the year goes on. I don't know.
Polish between stages, maybe. I don't know.
I still want to destroy that thing. I mean, first two games, I hate the fact that TSM scored as many rounds as a gimped Mirage did by not having their full 5 players today. That to me is concerning. The Xset Dark Zero game definitely did deliver. There's a lot of VOD review potential from that one.
Yeah.
No, I really liked that game, and I'm happy Xset are continuing this kind of streak. But I think this just solidifies I'm that disappointed in TSM right now. So,
well, get over it. Where's the objectivity? Come on.
I don't know.
We just want good games. You don't care who's playing
I was cheering for them in Stockholm, and now they do this to me. What did I do?
Maybe that's why.
What did I do?
Who knows? Either way, I love watching Xset. Xset is a team that, despite the fact that they're on this great hot streak, it's not just that they're winning games. I feel like they're winning games in better ways than they had before. I feel like even along that string of wins, you can see a good amount of improvement on the team.
I'll make the argument that if they don't win something substantial or place really high, like if they were to go to the major, this might be the only time they're really going to do that, unless they can keep the surprise factor thing going. Kind of the same thing with Astralis, because they're leaning into being new or having new elements that they haven't touched before. So Xset got to win now.
Yeah, also, like, you take a look at their schedule, and they did play first week SSG TSM, which are traditionally top teams in North America. I know TSM, whatever. Yeah. And then, like, their last 5 games happened against some of the weaker opponents. Their last 4 were in order: Parabellum, followed by Beast Coast, followed by Mirage, followed by Dark Zero just now. So, like, there's tougher opponents to come still. Oxygen on the ballot and Astralis as well. That'll be the real test for them. But yeah, I mean, they've been having a great time so far, and their attacks have been looking fantastic. So that's nice.
Yeah, very much so. Let's talk about our next series, like we mentioned a little bit earlier. It's going to be Soniqs versus Oxygen. Now, again, this seems like kind of a David versus Goliath matchup when you come into it. Only, I think Goliath is definitely a little bit more favored, and so it may not go like the story. Right. But Soniqs still, you gotta believe deep down somewhere that skill still exists. But now they are mathematically eliminated from getting to go to the major, though, at this point, are they? So the question is, what do you have to play for? I suppose the easy answer there is SI points, but there's also things like pride. There's also things like trying to, at least get some sort of morale boost going in the last couple maps here. But, what do you think?
I mean, there is also that these teams have, in the past, not been the best of friends. We've seen some beef on Twitter between Fox and Super, and, they haven't really been the kindest to one another. So there is definitely some rivalry going on between these two squads, Oxygen and Soniqs, both talking about who's the better team amongst them, who's the most annoying team captain. Listen, sometimes these teams get in each other's hair and they get a little bit messy on Twitter, but it's all in good fun, right? And I do think that when these teams clash, it's always a good sign.
I mean, we had Foxe and Kino sitting right next to each other on Pengu's podcast the other day. And nothing crazy happened. No one was like jumping at each other. It was it all stayed civil. So I believe
Foxe is still Kino's dad at heart. You can't change that.
At the end of the day, it's all good sportsmanship. But let's check out Soniqs a little bit more in depth here. It's a team that, again, we've said this so many times, but coming into the stage, looking like one of the best teams in North America, just based on previous results. Had a strong SI performance, obviously won NAL last year, and now here we are, Soniqs in 9th.
Yeah, the NAL champs, and they won't let you forget it. They have definitely not been living up to their expectations so far. I think that we started off the season and Rexon and Grixer were just not really gunning to the same amount that we've seen from them in previous years. And the Soniqs are a team that don't have 5 gunners where everybody can step up and find those kills. If Rexon and Grixer are not there, oftentimes there's really nobody left to pick up the pieces because they are a team that really play in their roles. Super is a support player. Yeti is kind of a support flex player, often can't really get as involved involved in those kills as some other teams. So sometimes we do see Soniqs falter in there, but I will say that last week they finally got their win over Mirage, and even in their second last game, which they did end up dropping to Dark Zero, they got 4 rounds, and I don't think they looked that bad in that game.
I mean, sure, slow and steady wins the race, so maybe they are in a position where they're playing a bit of a long game like TSM, hoping stages 2 and 3 is where they can come back alive. Sure. But there's still 2 factors I think they didn't really account for. Attacker repick and the fact that they don't have scrims against tier 1 squads. From what we've understood, the number of times that they play against high-level teams in practice is extremely minimal by comparison to other teams of the same caliber.
That shocks me.
Yeah, it's not meant to happen that way. They're not a very well-liked team in North American circles, which has kind of led to things like this. But if you can't get adequate practice against teams of the same tier, then you're going to see the results similar. I'm actually surprised they went as far at SI as they did, understanding that fact, right?
I mean, it's nice to see Soniqs starting to get back on the horse. I do expect to see better play from them throughout this stage. But that said, they do have a tough schedule coming up. The way that we've seen some players starting to pop off, Rexon and Grixer have been 2 players that have really started to get more and more of the shots.
Yeti never slowed down, arguably.
Yeti was, yeah, okay. I think Yeti was definitely better when Soniqs were in their slumps, but certainly was not like a monster for them. So it'll be a little bit tough here.
It seems like Yeti does need a strong team around him too.
For sure.
Yeah,
100%.
To succeed naturally with the role. But let's take a look at Rexon's stats a little bit more closely here too, because that is a player that they're really needing to put up some numbers,
Yeah, and I think that what we've got so far, stage 1, 43 and 42, 7 and 8. This seems very balanced, but the
positive KDA. Or
technically,
KD,
sure, but listen, Rexon's actually had a very imbalanced stage. The first couple of weeks, he was really down in the gutter for the Soniqs. He was one of the lowest rated players, and then last week he finally pops off, finally has some really high stat line games, and so this is what we wanted to see from them. It's unfortunate we're seeing this performance turn around when their next 3 games are Oxygen, Space Station, and then TSM, which maybe there's some hope there at the end.
Yikes.
But Oxygen Space Station this week is so tough for Soniqs that are finally starting to get going. It felt like some of their pushes were fine against Dark Zero, maybe just some moments where they were getting caught off guard, Rexon in particular. And then, their defenses on Soniqs, I thought, again, they were okay back on border, but there were some, gimmicky plays. Yeti hiding under a desk is forever going to be burned into my mind. So, yeah, I don't know.
Happens to the best of us. Right?
Maybe
he thought
he
there was
wants
an
that
earthquake
late
going on.
flank no matter how he's going to get it. Yeah.
100%.
Exactly. So the thing is, too, is because you're eliminated from the opportunity to go through the major this stage, to a certain extent, that takes some of the pressure off as well. Because it's all right, well, we're not going to make it this time. Now let's look ahead. Let's try to, again, get those morale-boosting wins that maybe we can find against some of these stronger teams here at the end of the stage, or at least, just practice the fundamentals. Just try to get back into form and use these on-stage experiences as just good practice.
Yeah, to an extent, I agree. You don't have that pressure, which means you can kind of throw whatever you want at the wall and see if it sticks. You've got time to work through some of those kinks. Hopefully by now it's pretty obvious what's working and what's not. If you wanted to try some wacky stuff, you're eliminated from contention, get crazy with repick, try and adapt to your opponents and don't necessarily play to your own strategy, you theoretically could do that. On the flip side, Oxygen are incapable of doing that, so there is the chance for the Soniqs to play spoiler. They could suddenly pop off in these last couple of games and maybe even prevent some teams from going to the major if they don't just provide 3 points freely to a lot of these teams still trying to qualify.
I mean, again, with SI points on the line still theoretically for Soniqs, they're going to be pushing still. They're still going to be, trying to get some wins here. You got it, right? Because those points, again, a bad stage doesn't mean a bad year necessarily.
It's true, yeah. I mean, Jesse, I don't see them finishing bottom 2 of this stage in spite of that. Do you see that?
I doubt it. I mean, this is a team that expects to go to SI. The next couple stages are going to be important for gathering these points. But if you can get some this stage too, that'd be huge.
Well, on the other side of the arena is Oxygen, a team that has been absolutely crushing at this stage. A team that, we talk about total package teams. This team, with the pickups that they got in the offseason, really seems to have kind of achieved that status.
Oxygen, for many people, are the best team in North America right now, but last week we finally saw that they can bleed. Not only in their game against SSG, which they did lose 7-5 on Cafe, it was a very close affair, but even in their second game of the week against Parabellum, they won it but got pushed all the way to overtime, almost let it slip through their fingers. I will say in that Parabellum game, I felt like they adapted really well by having better coverage, better control before they would put that kit down. It felt like on attack it was slipping away, but they were able to claw it back. Notice what PB were doing in some of their setups. We heard in the interview that Oxygen called some of those setups gimmicky.
Yeah.
I think that they adapted fantastically to those gimmicky setups. And What we need to see from Oxygen is maybe that, again, if what you were saying is true, Jacob, where Soniqs maybe you're going to get a little wild, a little crazy, considering they can no longer make the major, try things out to fix this, this roster that they've got right now.
Yeah.
That is maybe somewhere where those gimmicky plays can come through. And if Oxygen are good at shutting that down, that's a very good sign.
I think so. I'll stand by the idea that you can learn a lot more from a team in the way that they lose and the way that they win. And because they've got one loss, let's look at what happened. When they lost that game on Cafe to Space Station, it was from a comeback from SSG. And all of a sudden, they had, I think it was like 4 to 5 rounds unanswered. OXG had to muster a comeback from essentially nothing. And when they did, they still dominated the early round on attack. They used that ground to advance into site with a really big advantage. They didn't have as much late round control as they would like. Sometimes they lose too many bodies before an execute could be set up properly, but that's fixable. That's something you can easily adapt around. They definitely set the tone on defense nearly every round. Like, they would retain top floor control and site control for a really long time, and the only times they really lost to Space Station when they finally cracked through and won the game was off pocket strats that SSG decided, we'll push site really fast, we'll make sure they can't get that early advantage. And when SSG pulls those things out, typically they usually win. SSG pocket strats are like they have a very high success rate. So OXG still felt like they were the better team in that matchup more consistently. Space Station just caught them off guard.
I agree 100%. I thought their fundamentals were really strong on that map. Some of the takes against SSG, they were just letting Space Station be a little too cute.
Yeah.
Right? That false shotgun flank could have been caught. The mining retake setup could have been cleared a bit better, but unfortunately it just didn't happen.
Pushing right into kitchen after one exothermic fails could have been caught. Like,
yeah, for sure.
It's not unfixable for OXG. In fact, I'd argue it's incredibly easy to fix.
Well, the funny thing is like you were saying earlier, you can often learn more from a loss than a win, right? And when you're a team like OXG and you were on top for so long, still technically on top standings-wise, right? Yeah. You know, you kind of don't get really the footage to learn from sometimes if you're just winning over and over again. It's easier to climb up towards the top than stay on top sometimes. And so maybe with the struggles last week, OXG has kind of come back stronger. We'll see. And I mean, that might not be something you get to see against a team like Soniqs in their current state, but something to kind of keep in the back of the mind for sure.
Tough problem to have. Your team is winning too much, so you can't figure out how to improve.
These are the kind of problems you want to have.
You're not wrong.
100%.
You're not
Absolutely.
wrong.
Let's check out the maps, see where we're going to end up playing this particular match. The bands are in. Let's see what the results are.
Off we go. Soniqs banning Cafe, no surprise. If they play it, it's because something in the world has drastically changed, forcing them to go to it, but OXG deciding to ban Club. I remember back when these two teams actually played, and the stage 1 resurgence all of a sudden for the Soniqs kind of out of nowhere was on Clubhouse. They suddenly won it. OXG deciding to save that bad boy for later. Same thing for Oregon. Neither team is really interested in taking that battleground anywhere substantial. I'm still looking for the Soniqs to find a map that they're good at, which so far the only one they've managed to win on is Villa, and that is something OXG, they want none of that smoke. They say, we'll take that off the board early. No more theme park. We still have several of the new maps that we have to get to yet. I don't think we're going to see Skyscraper, given the way that the Soniqs lost to it pretty handily against Astralis. So I'm pretty sure that will be their last ban here.
Chalet, Border, and Sky are last 3 maps. All maps that the Soniqs have lost so far this stage, so they're going to be going back and trying to turn one of those games around. They thought Skyscraper was the worst of those 3 maps, and I would have to agree. They got just 1 round against Astralis, lost that map pretty hard. Oxygen, the final choice coming through now between Chalet and Border. Border does make sense. Chalet, although Soniqs lost it this stage, it's one that historically Soniqs were very strong on, dating back through Mexico City to SI to stage 3. They've been very good there, and certainly historically also very poor for Oxygen. 1-5 record through stages 2 and 3, but they won it against Astralis day 2. So Border, a clean state for Oxygen, and as I mentioned, Soniqs have lost this one already, so there is some VOD there.
Yeah, sure enough. So it seems elementary, right, if you look at Oxygen versus Soniqs, right? But the question is what is what if any, is the threat that Soniqs poses here?
Well, I do think that if they can manage to get their key fraggers going once again, that's certainly an area where we've known this team to be able to pop off and have some big moments. I want to see Super playing his typical roles. I don't want to see anybody trying to fill in for Rexon or Grixer or Yeti or Kansan or whoever might not be stepping up, right? I want to see everybody doing what they do on the Soniqs. I want to see them playing their game. The fact that we're going to Border and it's a brand new map certainly I think also exposes some potential holes for Oxygen, so there's definitely pathways here.
I mean, if we're talking about an OXG team that dominates when they have man advantage, I think the idea is take that advantage away from them or the chance for them to get it. If they're playing fast and loose with the law, they might as well just shove an idea down their opponent's throats as fast as they can. If it means unconventional operators, if it means quick drone in, act off initial intel, and then like get kills based on that intel, then maybe they'll have an easier time in the early round, because I do think that that's where most of this is going to be won. If OXG have an advantage going into the execute, it's probably going to be wraps for the Soniqs.
Sure enough. Speculation, educated guesses. It's what we got to work with.
That's our job.
That's right. That's what we got to work with. You just look at the data, we look at the results, we go by our guts sometimes. We flip a coin, if you're me, I guess, and we see what happens. Let's check in with our casters. Penguin and Terra are standing by / sitting by, depending on what they feel like. Do you guys stand during the games ever? I always like to stand up when I cast.
Sometimes.
You ever do that?
Depends on the game. Depends on the game. Depends on how comfortable the chairs are. These chairs are actually quite comfortable.
Oh, all right.
So, yes, they're very nice.
Well, feel free to stay seated. It's fine.
Sit down, son.
Especially with that camera shot. Your head will be
Can I
cut
go
off, so
lower?
you don't want to do that. What are the predictions you got? Is there any chance for Soniqs, or is it just easy Oxygen pick?
Pengu's allowed to stand up only when he gets a 50% prediction rate or higher.
All right, listen up,
Man.
buddies. I was at 50 when I was sick, and then I came back, and somehow, someway, my predictions tanked, and I was predicting the worst teams in the league to win games.
Same thing happened to me. I'm a victim.
For the two-time world
we
champion.
both had that curse.
We're
afterwards?
victims.
We are victims.
We are victims of a bad prediction system for us.
I think the
It's a biased
Soniqs will be a
system.
victim of OXG
Correct.
as well.
Yeah. I like that the Soniqs are making steady improvements, and I like that they have like a good set of eyes on the problems. Like, they know what's wrong. But there are good teams that know what's wrong all the time, and they just can't fix it. Maybe they don't have the tools for it. Maybe they don't have the time. Maybe I don't really know. I don't play for the Soniqs, and I would probably make
You don't play at all.
I doubt I'd make them better.
Bruh.
Sorry,
Okay,
Parker.
in Parker's defense, I did see him boot up Siege on Steam like, what, 2 days ago? Right, Parky?
How
did
long
you
did
play?
that last for?
I did. I think I played for a couple hours. But
Oh, okay.
I don't think it would make Soniqs any better. I don't know what's going to make them better. OXG have looked so formidable. They're the best team in the NAL right now, going up against a team that just got eliminated. Like, if the Soniqs really started to figure things out right now, it'd actually be kind of a bummer, because they have nothing to play for. Like, you're
Would
in the
it? SI
bottom part of
points,
the
man?
standings.
I mean,
Don't SI points matter? You get 8 points.
SI points matter. Yeah.
I would
for
say
sure.
the ultimate
For sure.
thing you play for is that you can basically try and beat OXG and make sure that they have a worse chance of making the major themselves. So you can kind of have a say in who gets to qualify. So
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you look at
It's not very cool.
Yeah, if you look at the point standings right now, the likelihood of OXG not making it has actually increased now that Astralis and XSET won their matches today. And if you look at the upcoming matchups after today, OXG has DZ and XSET. So those are not for sure winners, especially that OXG XSET on the last day. That one could be quite good. I don't know. I don't think OXG is going to have really that much of a problem with this matchup. I'm going to go so far as to say it's going to be a 7-5 for OXG.
That's actually giving a lot more credit to Soniqs than I thought you would, honestly.
Yeah. I think the Soniqs are steadily improving. I don't think they're a terrible team. And the thing with the Soniqs is they always seem to rise to the occasion against really, really good teams. I don't know if they take it personally or not, but
I would imagine they do. They have a little bit.
They do.
Well, there you go. 2 votes for Oxygen. Now over to our analysts. What do you got? Oxygen as well?
I mean, we've said on several occasions, Super will not tolerate a loss to X player. He will not tolerate a loss to Drip. He will not tolerate a loss to Marmalade. And to be fair, he didn't end up losing to Marmalade. But I don't like the Sonic squad in its current state and don't trust them to get over the finish line against an OXG team that is really, really that good. They are that team right now. Right next to Astralis, they are the group of guys that honestly I expect if they go to the major, they have the potential to win the whole darn thing. So I'll keep sticking around on OXG because right now they look just that amazing.
I think we're all, other than the coin, I think we're all flawless on predictions so far.
That's true.
Yeah, we've been doing pretty well. Unfortunately, my laptop just died, so the script that's been in front of me this whole time is also gone. I don't know who's going to win it this time, so I could be wrong, but I think I'm going to go Oxygen as well. And if the coin goes other than Oxygen, I will finally be ahead of the coin as well.
For the
I'll
record,
join the club.
my laptop still works, and that is in fact what the script says.
Perfect, thank you.
We're good.
Thank you.
I'm glad we have 2 of these wonderful Predator laptops on the desk too.
Wouldn't it be cool if there was a third of them?
I wasn't going to say anything, but since you brought it up, yeah, that'd be pretty neat too. But in the meantime,
you got me, Dad. Come on.
in the meantime, let's find out what the coin has to say. So it's going to be Soniqs on the left side, so that's going to be heads. And then we've got tails will represent Oxygen. Now it's been heads every time today. What's it going to be this time? Oh, it's tails. All right, the coin has had enough.
All right.
It's time to go with the more logical pick. It's going with Oxygen, it looks like. There you go.
Hey,
Shiny
what I
coin.
think that means is I think I'm safe from the coin surpassing me on the day, regardless of what this result is. So I'm fine with that.
I stay tied no matter
I think
what.
I'm in the clear.
Until game 5 at least.
All right, well, there you have it. Predictions are in. Everybody, including the inanimate object, going with Oxygen this time around. We've got another community poll, though, for you to take a look at. Let's see what it is right now. Grixer and Vertical were the highest rated last year. Who will score higher today?
That's true.
That is
Fun stat.
That was an MVP battle
kind of an
at one
easy
point.
question.
Yeah, well, any opinions?
Stat. I mean, come on. Vertical. What?
All
Yeah,
right,
because it's
all right.
this question's mostly asking who will win, and then you'd think either Grixer or Vertical would be highest rated or have the highest amount of kills on the team that wins. So
True.
Come on.
come on,
Grixer's-
that's easy.
Seems like a lot of easy choices today, but you know what? That's when the upsets become all the sweeter. So who knows what's going to happen? It seems like the Oxygen has the edge, but the Soniqs might just maybe, sort of, possibly, potentially,
Maybe kinda.
maybe. Either way, you don't know until you watch, right? You don't know until you actually see the thing happen. So don't go anywhere. Soniqs versus Oxygen coming up on NAL right after this.
Losing control, I gotta know who's in control of me. Losing control, I'm gonna explode. Can you bring it back to me? Bring it back to me. Bring it back to me. Bring it back to me. It's making me feel so weak. Feeling like a puppet controlled by some strings. It's killing me.
We all sit in chairs every day. They're useful for things like not standing or lowering the top half of your body to match the height of a table or desk. To enjoy chairs, you need to use proper chair technique. Let's watch Jacob, an ordinary, happy, and healthy young fellow, try to sit in a chair. What's this? He's fallen on the ground. Jacob did not use proper chair technique. Improper chair technique can lead to shame, embarrassment, and yes, even serious injury. So how then does one sit in a chair? First, approach the chair and turn so the chair is behind you. Bend your knees and extend the posterior over the flat area. Finally, slowly lower yourself onto the chair. See, it's easy. Now you too can sit in a chair.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our educational PSA on how to sit in a chair. I'm glad that they found something to keep themselves busy while we weren't here last week.
Yeah, it looks like we missed the party, Parker.
We really did. That was
did.
great content, and we were not a part of it, and that is A-okay. I I remember when we saw Goddess fall. I think she was the second or third person to fall.
Second, I believe. Yeah.
And we were like, what is it with these players not being able to sit in the chairs? And I mean, they're heavy chairs, and if you sit on the front, they'll tip. It's that simple.
It's very straightforward.
Yeah.
You would think that people would know that, especially because we started warning the players ahead of time, and then somehow they still keep falling over. So that video was made for that purpose, to help educate in a visual matter of how to sit in the chair.
Well, I mean, there's Goddess herself behind the Soniqs team. I don't know if this has been cleared up on every single broadcast since, but it's something that we've talked about before with Soniqs, which is that Joe Bro has not relinquished his position as analyst on the team. He's still there. He was promoted to do analytics for all of the Soniqs, not just their Rainbow Six team, but the litany of other teams that they have across a wide variety of esports. So you can't quite pin the failures of the Soniqs on his absence or on Goddess's emergence as the coach, or Super falling off plus L plus ratio, whatever you choose to do. Either way, let's get underway with Border. It's our fourth matchup of Playday number 7. We're just getting treated to all the new reworked maps today, and Osa is the first operator banned out by OXG.
That we are, and I believe Super himself actually did tweet that if you want to be angry at anybody or blame anybody, blame me. So Super himself taking the blame publicly, saying that if we're not playing up to speed, if we're not doing good enough, that is on me as a leader, as an in-game, or IGL rather. Don't blame the players, don't blame the staff, etc. So Soniqs, they got something to prove, and Super himself has a lot on his shoulders. And so far, Soniqs have been showing their cards pretty straightforward here. We're seeing number of events go out. Osa the first to fall, Thatcher, Mira to follow it up, and then OXG will round it up rather with the Valkyrie. So pretty standard Border situation, with the exception of Osa, I would say, which we're actually starting to see more and more of Osa play in Pro League these days. Like a high level of play in Europe, in NAL, in Brazil, in APAC. Osa is becoming one of those operators that most teams are happy to bring majority of the rounds.
I mean, I honestly think attacker repick is the huge reason for this. You know, we saw some Gridlock get played. We've seen a lot of Lion. We've seen Ying. We've seen Dokkaebi. Operators that are usually more niche, like a Capitao as well, are popping up. Why? Because you can always repick. You go in, you look, okay, they don't have a Wamai. Okay, they don't have a Jaeger. Boom. Suddenly, impact grenades, suddenly Candelas, suddenly Capitao darts become way, way stronger. And I mean, look at this lineup from OXG. They don't have a Wamai and they don't have a Jaeger either. Nope. So if you are the Soniqs, you can very easily pick out a lineup that takes full advantage of that. In terms of their actual lineup right now, I mean, they have some throwables in terms of nades from the Finca, but
that's it.
That's
really
really
don't have much else. Like right now, they're playing with the operators. We're gonna see Rexen go to that Twitch. We're gonna see Yeti rather pick up the Nomads. So a bit of a map control situation here from the side of Soniqs. They probably want to clear out this situation and not go for anything directly, because you would need more grenades for that. Meanwhile, OXG, well, they're trying to figure out what they want to set up, and we see right now that Dream has picked up the Frost. That's going to create an issue, possibly, as, you know, those pesky Frost traps can become an issue later on in the round as it develops.
Frost is obviously a staple pick on certain bomb sites for a lot of these NA teams. Chalet, she pops up quite a bit. We also see her now here on Border, and one of the more critical spots of Border tends to be over towards that security CCTV, as you mentioned. Bandit is another operator whose pick rate has suddenly increased, and Vertical has a free kill here, but doesn't seem to know it. The Nomad of Yeti is on drone and now off, giving their position away. Vertical droned on this balcony, and he's just going to play for picks as best as he can. Not too far away is Nurs. Nurs sitting there with the Vigil abilities will hide him from those drones, though he does get spotted by the Twitch drone. Yeti, meanwhile, is taking up space over at the top of East Stairs, and they can taste a push towards Fountain.
Again, C4 went out vertically, didn't find any damage at all. And we actually see the interesting thing here. Only a secondary shotgun on the side of Dream and the Frost. All 4 impacts were used in the prep phase from OXG to enable this roam game, which means, sure, they got a ton of guns, but they have limited vertical destruction because there are no real shotguns here.
Now there's a flash that goes out, and one of the EE1Ds used to for Kansan. He's posted up inside of securities we talked about before. Not a whole lot has happened here other than discovery from the Soniqs as they close in on what they want to do, but It looks like it might be an armory bomb site, but it's not. As we talked about, it's that bathroom bomb site down below.
It is, and OXG's been playing their own game. Newer started in CCTV and has made their way all the way back to the bomb site, going through the motions. And Soniqs, they haven't almost taken any map control. We see them now going for the side wall underneath bottom east, but trying to get in through this single reinforcement is not going to be easy unless you get Rex and Smoke there, because these long lines of sight into Workshop is going to be an issue.
Do keep in mind that there are frost mats as well if they wander in and don't have the best visual on the bomb site. 30 seconds left or thereabouts in this round. Vertical watching two separate angles. Newers is the cross on that opening that was created,
Smokes.
but he's lost his line of sight as that smoke gets tossed out. He'll just feed that entry with as much bullets as possible. Dream the Frost down for the count. Yeti is in, and Super taking some damage as he tears away at one of those frost mats. 15 seconds left. Soniqs, dangerous position right now. They don't have sight control, and they need to start picking away at these OXG players who are well off sight. Nurse falls. So does Yeti. Fox A down two. Two players from OXG to stop Super from getting the plant down. Vertical to the rescue. Laxing finished off, so it'll be Vertical to clutch out as the diffuser gets planted. He gets swatted away by Grixer and the Soniqs. Take a statement of a first round.
Oh, Grixer there. That was a nice round. I will say OXG, while they had the roam game on a lock and key, they had no smoke on the board, no C4s, no information, no real way to shut down a possible plant from the side of Soniqs. So while the Soniqs took the entirety of that round down to the last 20 seconds to execute, well, that's fine, because there was no real way for OXG to really challenge them once they rotated Rexen, once they got those smoke grenades and blocked the lines of sight, enabled themselves to walk in on that bomb site. It was very, very well read from the side of Soniqs and the side of Super. And that's going to force this bomb site rotation. We start in bathroom tellers, now we're going ventilation. These are the two most common bombs that we see on border, because you can use the vertical aspect of the map. When you play a bomb site like Armory, you're very much stuck on the top floor of things because you can't do a ton of vertical from below with the map rework. Now, with ventilation, this completely changes, and that's what we see happening right now. All 5 defenders are top floor, setting up the entirety of this area of the map, even though the bomb site is down below. And that's because you could play a top-down hold, as we see very commonly being played out. And that's exactly what OXG will do. A quote-unquote basic setup, and if you're too late and the attackers know it, they can simply just rush on in. Not that unexpected, but if you are too late, you can't get punished.
It's a similar lineup being brought from the Soniqs, by the way. They liked 4 of these operators. Quite a lot. As for OXG, some stylistic differences. Vertical's off of that Bandit, and I like that they're finally bringing some of that anti-denial, as we've talked about in the previous round. So Jaeger and Wamai on the board.
It's going to be a bit more of a passive round for OXG, right? You're not going to be roaming as heavily. You're going to pick your 2 areas up top, Armory and Archives. Fountain, sure, small extension from Vertical, but that's really all you're going to be seeing. You're not going to see them start in security and start East stairs playing super aggressive like we did in the previous round from Vertical and Newers. We're going to see this being a more find a spot, reinforce it, fortified ADSs, establish crossfires, as you see right here between the Fountain player and the Archives player. The hatch to the bomb site is soft. You can fall back down if you need to, so you don't have to stick around the entirety of this round, but you also just can't give it up for free.
Well, Soniqs have now used 1 minute of this discovery phase, as we've talked about before. Outside, Super was rotating around with Diffuser in hand. He was successful in the previous round of getting the plant down. The Soniqs actually put forward almost as perfect a round as you can possibly expect. Kansan will alleviate some of the pressure that the defense put on these peripheral parts of the map by opening up Workshop and now droning around. And he assesses that, hey, we can literally just walk right in. Unless you haven't droned out the defender playing above, which is exactly the case. OXG have opened up that hatch. They're sitting watching it. They've also got some kill holes in the floor. Kansan needs to be particularly cautious of this. Fox A seems to be the one holding that. Dream softened up yet again. He was the first player to take some damage in the previous round. Does so yet again. Not enough to find a kill, though.
The Soniqs still have smoke grenades on Rexen. That was the key factor in the previous round of that first attack. Could be the key here as well, because lines of sight has to be blocked unless you're clearing out top floor. And right now, Soniqs, they're trying to push in both fronts right now, but they're waiting for the swing from OXG to react. And so far, it's paying off quite well.
Nick, look on the right side of the screen. Look at the HPs of these OXG players. Not at all. Just taking chip damage here and there. Dream finished off. as both teams trade back and forth, putting into a 3v3 with Grixer holding that diffuser. 3 kills to his name. Pablo will have no problem getting the diffuser down, and OXG will scramble to get back into the bomb site. As Laxing does so, he's punished by Grixer for it, not just taking objective matters into his own hands, but the kills as well. Foxay with some play from above, but he can't spot any of the players from SQ, so where does he go? He and Vertical will work shoulder to shoulder on that second floor, retaking from the top, and Vertical misses out on what could have been a relatively easy pick. Smoke goes out as it's the fade away from Rexen, buying as much time as possible. That aids the Soniqs as the diffuser continues to run, and it's a double up as both players from OXG get felled at the same time, and the Soniqs take their second round in a row.
Bit of a risky round from Soniqs. Grixer are planted there in that round with 0 cover as nobody else was anywhere nearby the bomb site, but neither was OXG. Everybody was off doing their own thing, roaming, challenging each other on the top floor, challenging each other bottom main stairs. It was just Grixer that entered the bomb site, traded his teammate, got the kill, and then planted down. And then Laxing dropped the hatch, trying to figure out what exactly is going on the bomb site itself, and then he met Grixer's LMG on the finger. And that's going to mean that Soniqs are up 2-0 against OXG on what, to be fair, is an attacker-favorite map of Border, so it's not a crazy surprise. But with how it's going on right now, we see it top center of your screen. Soniqs is currently in 9th place, being 1-5. Basically tied dead last with Mirage on just 3 points. Whereas OXG, they're 5-1. And they're currently in 3rd place on 14 points, which is Exit and Astralis above them, who has both already played today and both gotten their points. So this should be a one-sided matchup in theory, but not for the team that is currently in the lead. We'll see if OXG can claw it back and find something going. The roam game hasn't really paid off just yet. Newers hasn't been activated, Foxay hasn't been activated, and usually we see OXG do the best when you got the likes of Newers getting interkills and the likes of Foxay becoming a massive nuisance for the attackers.
All right. What's another defense of the bathroom downstairs? Second attempt for Oxygen, Nick. They did not look particularly poised the first time around, and this is very uncharacteristic of this OXG team that usually is so lethal, whether it be on attack or on defense. Oxygen have seemingly been beaten to the punch by the Soniqs time and time again on this Border matchup. And I'm not just talking first picks, I'm talking about every single engagement seems to go in favor of the Soniqs, and guess what? It happens again. Lightning doesn't strike twice, strikes 3 times in one matchup. Grixer trading away all but a tiny bit of his HP to get that first pick on the Foxay. The Legion being the first one dead is particularly damning. Those goo mines continue to generate as time goes on. That's great denial, not just for area denial, but it can also stop somebody from going in a particular direction if they haven't droned it out. It's good intel, all of those things gone. That's a really pivotal pick.
Map control as well, right? You only got 4 men on the ground now if you're OXG. That means that naturally you cannot hold as many areas, or you cannot hold them as strongly as before. Foxay, when he plays the best, is always a massive disturbance and annoyance, frustration for his opponents. Ooh. But it's the wallbang from Rexen that becomes annoying for OXG, and Kansas Nate follows it up, making this close to a flawless round in a 5 versus 2 with only Grixer having taken a single point of damage. With Vert, he answers back, evening back the score, trying to at least. But they need a lot more than just this. It's Dream and Vertical in a 2v4 with a minute left to go. They have to clutch it up for their side of OXG.
It's a lot of work to be done, but there's a reason why Dream was so highly sought after by this Oxygen squad. Vertical as well has been so consistent, and this season in particular, he's really stood out for his squad. Back on this bandit role as before. This same no grenade catching anti-utility setup from OXG was a bit of a head scratcher first time around, but oh my, okay, well, 2 unanswered picks from OXG make that 3, leaves Super in a 1v2, a drop from Dream. Super's gonna have the shakes as he has to pick his target, and he gets absolutely slaughtered by Dream. Oh my. Dream, what a clutch in his 2v1 with Vertical, and OXG get their very first round, breaking the streak that the Soniqs were on.
It was started like a flawless round for Soniqs, and a 5 versus 3 turned into a 2 versus 4. Was clawed back by Dream and Vert, finding kills on both fronts on both sides, using the verticality to great length, but also Soniqs isolated targets, single-handedly running around or taking gunfights where they shouldn't, falling one by one with no trade, no refrag inside, and not being able to get down that diffuser as a unit, but rather as a single man standing on the side of Super. Arguably playing a little too forward, a little bit too loose, a little bit too aggressive, but OXG did a great job at punishing that, finding those 1v1s, and then winning those 1v1s. 2-1 now, as OXG has now played Tellers twice with a single loss and a single victory, and they want to try that same luck here on the ventilation bomb site again.
Well, they're just, they keep going back to these two reliable bomb
Back
sites
and forth.
here on border and hope that it works out for you. Last time around, in regards to the lineup that they brought, well, it was the same thing. This mute, by the way, to...
Yeah, so there's a situation right now that I've known. I think it's a new patch thing where it looks like defenders are attacker repicking or six picking, if you will, but I will assure you right now they aren't.
I was gonna make the same comment that you made, where it's
Okay.
like, nope, I promise you, he is not just somehow picking a new operator in the middle of this defensive setup. Could you imagine that? You lay down all your ADSs, and you're like, you know what? I'm done with Jaeger. And the gadgets just stay there. You switch over to another operator.
It's like, how much can you put down in 45 seconds? It's almost like a challenge.
Yes. But no, Dream is going to stay on this Frost operator. And the lineup that we see is exactly the same, minus the, I believe it was the Vigil that they had before on this bomb
So
site.
Vert was the Bandit, Neurus was the
Yes.
the Vigil before.
Yes, and that was back on their bathroom defense. So this looks very eerily similar to their previous workshop defense.
Yes.
We talked about how Frost works, and I mean, the traps are there to trip you up in the final moments of a round. That's when we tend to see them have the most influence. But there's a whole thought process as to why you bring a Frost in this situation that requires more than 1 minute and 50 seconds to get into. Let's not bog ourselves down with it, because the Soniqs have actually made quick work of getting to the exterior of the bomb site.
Yeah, I think one of the big things to note that with the Frost is that you get the secondary shotgun, you get the bulletproof of the shield, allowing your further members, which is Laxing, Vertical, Neurus, and Foxade, to get a better weapon. Again, no smoke on the board, no mute shotgun, none of that. We're enabling all 5 players with great guns by picking up the Frost as a secondary shotgun while still providing useful secondary utility and a bulletproof information. Yellow ping, speaking of that, the default blue camera was not shot from Soniqs, even though they had blue control for so long, and they get punished from it. It's a great trade. And another wallbang from Yeti.
This is
Yellow pings.
what an advantage that OXG had, and then Soniqs wrestle it right back, but those piles of lumber will prevent Yeti from a secure. He could potentially burn one of those breaching rounds, but will not do so. Instead, takes matters in his own hands, and it's the barrel of a gun to find Dream. OXG now trails in numbers. They've still got control of the upstairs. They can watch through these holes. Vertical gets tased by the Twitch drone, so he knows that he's under watch. That's a bit of mind games there from Rex, and even though it's a tiny bit of damage, it's still something where they know that there's a drone up top.
It is. And he couldn't find it either. So, like, they know there's a drone. They don't know where it is. It does 5 damage per sap, which is minimal damage. But, yeah, just disturbing or annoying your opponents here, playing with them here. Rexen has smokes, hasn't used him yet, and Super now wants to try and plant with 20 seconds left.
And he's in the middle of the bomb site with Super nearby. The hatch from above being a main point of concern as Vertical takes down Super. Somebody else will have to pick up that diffuser, but Vertical being hunted up top. Rexen looks in the wrong direction. Vertical still here.
Oh.
Beautiful plays. A 4th will claim him the round. And Kansan with a mark on him. He's paralyzed. Vertical an easy clutch. Remarkable stuff from OXG as they equalize, picking up their 2nd round to tie the Soniqs.
Exact same story. So, OXG, they go Tellers, they fall. Then they go Ventilation, they fall. Back to Tellers, it's a 2 versus 4 clutch using the verticality of the map to win the round. Then back to Ventilation for a 2nd time, and once again, Vertical, alive, uses the verticality to win the round. And Soniqs, they fall the exact same way as well, being too quick, not checking the vertical, not using the smoke grenades for lines of sight, not clearing all of top floor, and then not able to get the plant down until it's that 1 versus 1. Exact same thing has played out twice now, and OXG for the first time in this series are now tied up or equal since that 0-0 scoreline, but they also go into the tertiary bomb site of Armory. Now, this is probably the one bomb site that has changed the least, you could argue, with the map rework of Border, and it's also why a lot of teams tend to stay away from it as long as possible. As an attacker, it's very straightforward like before. You can take security into an armory attack, you can take security into a office attack, and it pretty much plays out the same way. You can't really play below as a defender, you can't really hold security, but some teams, like OXG, will make this early extension, see what they can make happen, and usually the goal here is to waste time, waste resources, and fall back. We really rarely see teams actually die in this security room because it's only a matter of time.
This Oryx pick from Newers, by the way, is one that we've seen before on Border. He's the fastest operator in the game. He can dash very quickly. Also, in a pinch, can open up soft walls. But often one of the understated points of an operator like Oryx is that you can quickly relocate and get yourself out of trouble while using one of the most effective guns in the game on defense.
T5.
The T5, virtually zero recoil, steady rate of fire. It shreds through your opponents. There's a reason why you see Legion brought, even when his gadget itself was not as effective as it could be. That gun is incredible.
Secondary shotguns open up hatches. You can jump back up hatches. There's a lot of things here. Now, they did actually nerf Oryx in this patch that came out today. It's like basically when you use your gadget to knock a player down, they will now recover faster animation-wise so that they're not going to be on the floor for as long. Very minimal nerf. Like, you don't typically use the gadget to knock over people, but rather knock over walls. So not really impactful in this situation. He'll play out the same, still a great gun. Newers himself not having the sharpest game so far, so getting a bit more freedom perhaps to play operators that he wants to choose, to play like the Vigil, like the Oryx, just like get comfortable in a gun, get him on the scoreboard, and now you're playing 5 versus 5.
There was some damage done to Newers in that early gunfight as well, and there's nothing being brought to get you back up in HP, so he's just going to stay in that position. A smoke goes out. Another one. It looks like a nade follows up, tossed through, and there the Selmas will go onto the wall by Super to open up the single panel into Office. The E1D gadget goes off, a bit of disorienting effect for us as a viewer, so we get a good overhead view of OXG's setup. They're anticipating at this point an attack from Office, because that's where most of the emphasis has been from the Soniqs. And as you mentioned, you can't really play below. Well, Foxay is doing that, by the way, with a Nitro Cell in hand. Dream the first to get punished. Down goes Newers as well. 0-5. What is it with these entries so far? Unable to find the plot line. Foxay takes one down in Super and then follows up with a Nitro Cell to claim the player from Soniqs who held the diffuser. Needs to be retrieved. Laxing on a nice play, takes out Rexen. What was a 5v3 in favor of the Soniqs is very swiftly swung back, leaving 20 seconds to go. Soniqs will have to retrieve that diffuser. They haven't found out where Foxay is down below. Is there a Nitro Cell waiting for them? We know the answer is no. They likely do as well. So, gunfights are what's on the menu. And an 8-2 Vertical is prepared to do battle with them. Instead, they'll send Kansan out to engage, but it's Vertical on a huge play yet again to win the round on time after taking out the 2 players from Soniqs. Impressive stuff as he breaks double digits and gives OXG their first lead of the game.
OXG has won 3 rounds. And how many of those rounds was Vertical alive and a key member to win those rounds, Parker? All 3, right?
Right.
Great. Okay, just making sure.
I didn't know if it was a rhetorical question.
I mean, it kind of was.
Like, he's setting himself up for to slam dunk his own question. Because I'm on board with that, man.
You're
if you
okay
want to
with
go
that?
for it? You know what?
Big 3 from Vertical here. As you
There
said,
you go.
breaking double digits, now on 10-2 for his team. Making up for the fact that Newers had a slow start and still is on a slow page of momentum here. I will say Soniqs have now lost their 3 rounds in a row the exact same way. This time, it was the Vertical in reverse. They didn't have a single player worry about the downstairs hold, despite planting on the softest structure. I mean, to be honest, the planter of Soniqs were planting on a literal hole in the floor, and Foxay didn't even need to use the C4. There was simply just a line of sight from below that should very clearly indicate that somebody was downstairs, and you can plant anywhere else in the room, or just drone downstairs first before you start planting, and Soniqs once again skipped that crucial step of the round, and once again, because of that, they fell, the advantage rather, fell out of their hands. It's sloppy. right now from inside of Soniqs. They had a great first 2 rounds. They read the situation, rotated people accordingly, used Rex and smokes from across the map, waited for him to deliver the line of sight, deny utility, and then round 3, 4, and 5, it's just the complete opposite where we're not using the smokes, we're not waiting for people to rotate, and we're not taking the time that we need to set ourselves up for success. And Vertical is absolutely abusing and exploiting that element from Soniqs.
Well, it only took OXG some time to find themselves back in the game, and it must be quite demoralizing for Soniqs, as was talked about by the desk, and even we alluded to when we were doing our predictions, is that Soniqs have steadily seemed like a more confident and capable team. They know what plagues them and what ails this squad. Sometimes it can be really tough to figure out what needs to be fixed. They're going to have a gun duel now, but Yeti gets baited very well and nicely played by Vertical, the secondary there, as an Adrenal Surge burned by the Finka of Grixer almost gets Yeti out of harm's way.
I want to say Newers might not have gotten a kill there, but he was vital for that situation. Baiting it out from the door, jiggle peeking, not taking the confrontation, allowing Vertical to just walk in from the right-hand side instead, blindsiding Yeti essentially. That is a Newers kill together with Vertical. That is a massive way of playing the game together in a 2 versus 1.
OXG now cleaning up. It's another kill for Vertical. He's at 12 so far. The rest of his team combined for 8, and Newers has yet to find the scoreboard. So it was talked about. The question was Grixer versus Vertical today. The answer, absolutely Verticals. Grixer's not doing too bad at 7-3, tied with Rexen. Rexen had a slow start to the stage, but he's bounced back quite well.
Yes. Soniqs now, I mean, unless OXG throws bodies at them and gives them those isolated target, which so far, to be honest, when OXG are man down, they play it so disciplined. Let's see if they can do that same thing when they're man up, and right now, they see them once again play together dynamically with the rotation hole, with Dream swinging out after Newers baits a player.
Part of the problem when you're down so far on numbers is lack of flank watch. There's no dedicated flank watch operator for the Soniqs, and Nomad is absent, so you have to have a set of eyes do it instead. But Kansan suspects Dream is still in that same position, and it's a nade to blow him up. Oh, Newers can't buy a kill at all. Kansan on fire with that. A kill onto Newers now. Gives Soniqs a little bit of fight when it comes to the final 15 seconds, but not all that much, because guess what? The big daddy of them all. Vertical inside of the lobby. He's got patience, but Kansan wins it. What remarkable stuff, and it's a Frostbat to claim the final kill as the Soniqs try to vault their way into the bomb sites and find that they've leapt themselves off a cliff. The first half is in the books, Nick, and the score is 4-2 in favor of Oxygen, and that's 4 rounds in a row for the team formerly in first place.
And just wanna really wanna nail this message home. The way Newers played that round, basically baiting the opponent into thinking that was a 1 versus 1, but in both instances it was a 2 versus 1. Earlier, Vertical and Break, he got the swing from the right-hand side. Later on, Newers was baiting inside of Office, and then Dream walked into the rotate to East stairs and once again got a free kill. Newers might not have kills on the scoreboard, but he is contributing massively in the last round at least, finding kills for his team. So the scoreboard doesn't tell the full story. We can also look at Sonic, super 0-5 right now, and he is the IGL, he is the leader of his team. IGL means in-game leader. He's the captain and anything. He's also like half their coach. He makes their strats, watches their VODs, goes through reviews, etc. He brings all of that brain power, if you will. So we don't typically see Super pop off and get tons of kills. But
wait, did you just say brain power?
Brain power.
Oh,
that's a literal thing. That's how you...
no.
Do you know the song? Brain power. Do, 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 do. It was a big song on Twitch for a while.
That's why I mentioned it.
Okay, just making sure.
The chat.
You are an older person. Maybe you didn't know. Like, you're not old, but you're older, because, like, I'm younger.
What do you think, that just because I'm older, I listen to music, and what is this noise?
You listen to music, but different music. You show me what you listen to.
It's fine.
Yeah, your music taste is great for the most part.
Thank you.
And, yeah.
I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
One thing I want to talk about before we get too deep underway here in round number 7, Nick, is the first half. OXG not just really picked it up in the second half, but I feel like their focus on the bomb sites increased quite steadily. The first 3 rounds, Soniqs got the diffuser down every single time. Round number 4 and 5, Soniqs attempted but were unsuccessful. In terms of objective play, tip of the cap to Soniqs for that. But Oxygen gave so much ground to Soniqs and then realized we have to respect them a little bit more. They made some small changes. Neither team burned a timeout. OXG bounced back. And with that, there wasn't a single objective completed after round number 3 for the Soniqs.
Yeah, I mean, I think you put it perfectly. Like, their eyes on the side was great. Their execution, however, not perfect from Soniqs. There are a few gaps, a few slits, and that's kind of where we see this show they were the better team. They abused those areas. Verticals in particular played it phenomenally 4 rounds in a row, and that's where we see ourselves now 4-2.
We're
not doing a whole lot here. We're waiting. OXG.
We are
about a rush side, I think, Parker, but soon, not yet.
Sorry, can I ask permission to speak?
Sorry, you can speak.
Thank you.
You gonna speak now?
Yes, I'm going to. At my own pace, okay?
I'm sorry.
I just want to know I can.
Oh, they're going.
And there's a rush on in. You called it correctly. Talk of objective play while Dream wants to get that diffuser planted. Are Soniqs blind to this? Vertical knows he's got one cut off over towards Jalen. Now he'll head towards the back of the bomb site. As the diffuser goes down quite well, everybody's still alive in the server. Good patience as Vertical picks up a triple. He needs to secure these 2 kills, and he does just that. Kansan finishes him off as it's 15 kills for Franklin. The Soniqs have something to say about this, though. Kansan in particular. He's pulled off a couple good clutches throughout his life. Can he do more of that? He's got 7 kills now, tied with Grixer and Rexen. It's him and Grixer, and it just becomes him. Foxay is there. Kansan picks up kill number 3 on top of the diffuser. This is the Devil's Split past the point of no return. At this point, you're just playing for kills. He'll get 4 of them. But the time had run out, and OXG get their 5th round in a row.
I want to say there, Kansan in that like 1 versus 5 essentially played that phenomenally. He got 4 kills, read the situation, basically knew where that last player was, or at least an idea he was left all right. Very nicely done. Vertical in this injury found the perfect timing, gets 1, gets the 2nd injure, finds the 3rd, then secures the double injure kill, makes 15 on the board. And that just leaves us with the whole Grixer versus Vertical. Well, we can start bringing, Kansan into that conclusion as well, because so far, he too is having a great game. And I think that's there it is. That is a tactical timeout from Soniqs.
That's correct. The Soniqs will be heartbroken after that one. A great set of individual efforts really do mask some of the problems that the Soniqs have had, right? In this previous match, or in the previous round that we just saw, Kansan almost clutches. The round before that, Kansan almost clutches. Those were the only 2 really good looks that we saw from the Soniqs. And again, having a clutch always requires a bit of help from your opponents.
Yep.
Always. Because if you've got 2 opponents on the left and right of a doorway, it's almost impossible for somebody to peek, get a kill, immediately 180 and kill the other. You're almost always going to get picked apart, which is what we saw happen at the very end there. The 4th kill that Kansan got in the previous round, guess what? It was Laxing, who was standing outside, netted the final kill by just simply existing on the other side of the door.
It's true.
So when you look at that, you need a bit of a leg up from your opponents. If you exclude those 2 clutches, which are unsustainable, the overall structure of the Soniqs defense, not particularly strong. What a huge blind spot for them to have that entire front component of ventilation be wide open and allow Dream to walk in and get the diffuser planted with about 1 minute and 30 seconds left, and everybody's still alive in the server.
The impressive part is that, we kind of set the tone when it was OXG in the defense. Ventilation is a vertical bomb site. You play from above, you have vertical control, and then you force the attackers to attack above. The thing is, there was no one from Soniqs really in Armory. It was Foxy on the sandwich window that we see kind of in the middle of our screen right now, cutting off the rotate, if you will, but that angle is so tiny, you can easily sprint past that if you're a defender. But with no information and with no vertical control, it was an easy direct attack from OXG, planting a 5 versus 5 into a 5 versus 5 post plant. So, couple of blind spots. Now we see them go again, but this time Armory is the bomb site.
It's not like Oxygen didn't have their same blind spots at the start of this matchup either, and we addressed that in round number 1 and in round number 2.
Yep.
When the Soniqs just walked in, got early plants down, and then got an early pick to just start off the round. And I say start off the round because you're still a minute into action, just as we are right now. Round number 8, and Oxygen looking for blood. There is an outside possibility that if OXG lose this match, they might not make the major. At the present moment, OXG are 2 rounds away from clinching 3 points. Will it guarantee them a spot at the major? Statistically, I don't believe it will.
No, it will not.
It still will take at least tomorrow's play day.
Yeah.
But the Sonics could very easily play spoiler to this run because of how competitive the top of NA has been.
So it's a do or die for OXG, or not do or die, but they know this game matters so much for them, even if for Sonics themselves maybe it doesn't matter as much. I also think Sonics, they willingly, like they're here to win. They want to try and choose who gets to go to the major, and more importantly, get some points on the board from themselves, so stage 1 doesn't look to be a complete failure.
We've still got 2 zeros on the board in both Super and Newers. Super, I don't want to say it's expected.
No, but you are playing 4v5 sometimes.
But there are times when
there he is.
I'm sorry, Seth. My apologies.
He's done.
Laxing is removed from play, a consistent fixture for this OXG squad, and now Newers is gone as well. So there will be only one if you want to talk about Highlander. This full court press of Sonics is being met with aggression head on as OXG tries to win these gun duels, fails to do so. On this Armory defense, a bomb site that you said is often that tertiary because teams don't want to go to it. Well, in this case, OXG showing exactly why as attackers you might not want to go to it. It's Fox A and Dream versus 4 players from the Sonics, and how do you lose that one? I'm a little confused. Dream has made it a 1v2 though, which is eminently more winnable. Super is still upright. A Yokai drone is in play. Grixer giving information. Super will push up for it. Oh, it's Grixer actually to win it. Super was miles away. I didn't realize the Echo was the one inside of Armory amidst the confusion and the chaos. That timeout obviously working because the Sonics prevent a match point situation as they get round number 3.
That they're doing it almost seems like OXG, or so I'm not sure exactly if this is like the case, but normally OXG don't have Newers going 0-7 or 0-8. Normally Newers goes in the map, finds a kill, and then you play 5 versus 4, and life is easy. But they're not finding the entries, they're not finding the opening kills on their attacking side, and they're also therefore not really getting a lot of map control. OXG were sitting still, waiting for something to happen from the side of Sonics for a very long time, and then eventually when the gunfights occurred, Sonics ended up winning those, and then OXG are like, well, what do we do now? I guess we just lose situation. So the question does have to be brought up, is Newers not being enabled on the entry a big issue for these border attacks? Because so far it's been direct bomb site attacks, not roam clearing, not isolating targets of Sonics, not taking vertical control. It's been very simple, very straightforward, and if vertical doesn't show up, then OXG doesn't show up. So I want to see OXG with a different approach to this round if possible. Now you're attacking tellers. This is not a bomb site we can just like go directly on the side window and jump in. That is not going to work. I don't think you should do what Sonics did, where you go bottom east stairs, you just walk on in either, because you can't expect the opponents to not cover those areas. I want to see OXG fight Sonics. Get on the map, isolate the targets, clear security, take Armory, take top floor, and show why they are the better team and why they're known for their gunfights.
Like physically fight them, maybe even like
fist
just
fight on
get up from
stage.
your computers in between each other in the esports arena and just brawl. It's Vegas, so we can take odds on who.
Yeti versus Laxing?
Who do you think is going to come out ahead, right?
That's a good question. I feel like Yeti would actually be.
I think Yeti could single-handedly destroy that entire team. Also, people don't know this, but Rexon is like 6'3" as well. Rexon is a big boy.
Yeah, he is actually a tall
Rexon
boy.
is a big boy. So, not that Laxing's pipes aren't so impressive. Oh, I could look at those things all day.
Oh,
anyway,
God.
1 minute in and we're still in the discovery phase. An IQ being brought. Is this the first IQ that we've seen
This
today?
is, I believe, of all the games combined, it actually might be the first.
I wonder if it's a response to the Pulse and the Mozzie being brought on the board. Obviously will help with the Mute too.
Yeah, gonna help you kind of figure out the situation here as well. You know what the setup might look like, but there are no Jaeger, there are no Wamai, so I do think you are correct. It's like a Pulse situation. Might have seen that operator
Could be, yeah.
in the drone phase.
You usually bring IQ as a direct counter to something. You're not blind picking an IQ most of the time, because if they bring a couple of the operators that we see from time to time, your IQ pick is often worthless because she doesn't have explosives.
Sure, no projectiles, unfortunately. Maybe one day. Right now, XD.
They should think about giving her nades. I don't know. I think IQ with nades would be a
rework the
weird
gadget,
one.
so it's like a visor like Jackal, or the pistol and scanner attached, and give her a gun 6. That way she gets both. No nades, but she gets the gun.
I was making a joke about how she used to have grenades, Nick. It wasn't really that.
She's not gonna get it back.
As the kids
Move
on. As the kids on social media say, it's not that deep, bro.
It's not that deep.
It's not that deep, bro.
You know what's not so deep right now? This attack is pretty simple. The defense, very well done from Sonic so far. Started top, moved down. Now they're holding Workshop, they're holding Bomb Side. Kansan, the only guy actually on the side itself, so if he falls, it's it's retake time from Soniqs.
Kansan will have to go in, get a pick, and then immediately retreat as the magazine on that Roni is only 16 bullets, and that's a double flash as the drop from OXG comes on in. Kansan and Rexen, 2 big kills, keeping this one nice and tight, but Dream swats away any chance of more damage being done. Diffuser going down, down goes Newers. Soniqs circling the wagons. They know exactly where he is, and it's Rexen now with his own Roni'd out duel, leaving Vertical in a 1v4. He can pull this off. He's quite a talented player, but he looks in the wrong direction, and he's down for the count. No withstand available. The Soniqs make lemonade out of lemons on that one, and they pick up their second round in a row. 1 round back of tying Oxygen.
Yeah, in that post plan for Vertical, you cannot see Diffuser. You cannot, kill the guy diffusing, and therefore you gotta fight through the entire map that you once had control of because, well, Soniqs, they did just that. They played the retake, they played the post plant, they found the kills, isolated members, and got themselves the round. Tactical timeout from OXG, and now they get to talk about what they think their problems are. And I actually think there might be a crazy world here where maybe you role swap mid-game. And this is this is probably not gonna happen, but as a former player myself, if you have a player who's clearly not comfortable in the server, not finding their stride, not really getting much value for your team, maybe it's time to just change that person to something else. And takes, Foxy on the entry, put Newers in like a flex situation or a +1, or maybe Foxy says, you know what, Newers, come with me. I'm gonna entry, you're gonna just trade my body. I'm gonna run in, I'm gonna die, you're gonna kill the guy who kills me. We're gonna get you activated here. Something has to happen for OXG to start winning these attacking rounds, and it has to come from Newers in one way or another. Because so far in attack, he hasn't had any value outside the fact he plays Finger with the grenades and the adrenal searches.
I'll go so far as to say exactly that. I think his gadgetry hasn't even been that important either. This is OXG effectively playing with a 1-player handicap at this point, and I know that for a player like Newers, who is new to the scene at this level, that it can be so hard when you have your first stinker of a match, especially somebody who has really made a name for himself over these 7 Playdays that we've seen.
And this is his first, not great game.
This is his first bad game. Don't say not great. Okay. This is his first downright rotten, awful game. So when you're a newer player, you get affected by that. Even some of the most miles that we see on veteran players, the most experienced players, still end up having a bad day. They get in a funk, and they can't break out of it. I agree with you. A roll swap could potentially be good from OXG here, but you got 2 nades, you got 3 adrenal surges. Stay alive long enough to use those, assist your team, maybe use a nade to flush somebody out of position.
Certainly.
That could even be a big win, even if you don't net a kill from it.
And this is where I hope for the sake of OXG that the veterans, Vert, Laxing, and Foxy can use their experience to help Newers shake the situation. And as I said in the TSM game earlier, the hardest kill and the most important kill of the entire game that you play is the first. Once you get past that burden, I feel like the round starts opening up for you, and it's weird how that works, but mentally speaking, that first kill just is a roadblock to some players.
You're still searching for it.
And we're still just kind of waiting for OXG, right? We're droning out, gathering information, holding angles, so if Soniqs moves too much, you might get a freebie. But what if Soniqs don't do that? What if they stand still?
The pacing of this particular map has been all over the place. You've seen these bull rushes from teams. You've seen both Oxygen and Soniqs read that the defense is quite poor, get in, get the plant down. Everybody's still alive. 9 players are still alive. 8 players are still alive. And there's really no consistency with these teams, and he's 0-10 at this point. Newers, his position will only get worse. Didn't know that there was somebody playing on Yeti spot, playing from below. Not great. Rexen, nice shot on the Foxy as well. That's 10 kills for Rexen. Yeah. And the Soniqs are making mincemeat of OXG. It goes from bad to worse as now it's Vertical. They don't know him at all. They don't know his position at all. That's a 3rd kill from Yeti. Oh my goodness, what a dreadful round from Oxygen at this point. Dream will have to vault in. He has no idea where anybody is, but there's a yokai drone that knows where he is on the window. The players can head on over if they want and see who can collect the head of Dream, but he's got 50 seconds, and I wouldn't be too surprised again to see another timeout get taken, and that's it. the timeout that was taken from OXG in the previous round, obviously not enough. Soniqs will take this round, tie us up at 5 apiece, and OXG will have essentially a second timeout without Hopes being involved in the conversation.
Yeah, this round was OXG trying to do the exact same attack as before, but this time with the one difference that Neurus was taking armory control, but Hibana breached the armory wall, and when Neurus walked into armory, well, Yeti got the kill through the Hibana breach from security, and then Neurus goes 0-10. The round is over. It's a flawless one from Soniqs. And I do think taking a second time out here is like the perfect thing to do, because clearly whatever you just spoke about didn't change a thing.
No. Foxay right now in the bottom of your screen, you can see him being quite vocal on the team cams while the rest of the team just sits and listens. Another aspect of it too is team's frustration towards a player's performance. Not that I think that the team would be angry at Newers, but there can be some dissension among the ranks if you feel like a player isn't showing up. If you feel like a player isn't listening or following through on the things that they want, there are emotions that can tie into that and can drag the rest of the team down too. So there's a lot of considerations to be had here. And I know that we're kind of throwing Newers under the microscope right now, but I honestly think this 0-10 performance is the story of this matchup at this point. If Newers is able to at least trade himself out on half of these rounds, 5 kills, I honestly think that's enough for OXG to take the win and seal the deal on this matchup. But we're going to go all 12 rounds. Soniqs won 3 in a row now, looking far more confident.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I want to say that when you see OXG struggling on the entry department, and then you see your injured player being 0-10, I mean, that's kind of why it's a big deal. It's not like they're struggling with like the late game plant situation. No, they're struggling with the first minute and a half, give or take, and that's where your boy Newers is the main person, because he is the entry player for your team. But I also want to take a look outside of Newers and just look at OXG. To be completely honest, if Vertical wasn't 15-7 or 15-2 as he once was, popping off 3 rounds in a row, this game would probably already be over and Soniqs would have won. So while we can say that Newers isn't having the greatest game, this is his worst individual performance in his entire Tier 1 career so far, which is a very short career, 7 games. If it wasn't for Vertical and Dreaming that 2v4 and then Vertical for 2 rounds after, none of OXG looks impressive. So yes, Newers bad game, but overall OXG not looking great as a team is very important to look at.
One thing that Super talked about in his interview was that they spent a lot of time after 6 Invitational focusing on the 3 new maps that were added, Theme Park, Skyscraper, and Border. And they kind of forgot some of their fundamentals, and the Soniqs kind of forgot some of their more traditional maps, and that was what Super said was the big issue with the team. Well, guess what? You're on Border right now. This is one of the newer maps that they supposedly focused all their effort and mind on, and things are going pretty well for them at this point. If they lose the next 2 rounds, you still go out 7-5. You still were able to claw it back and compete with a team that entered the day at number 2, entered the day, I believe, actually, at first, if I remember, before all of the games started, and has looked so strong.
Yeah. You're right in that aspect. It's been a strong as OXG leading the front, if you will, of NAL this season, which is very surprising to a lot of people, like myself included. And OXG right now has a great chance to prove themselves that this was not just like a first 7-game success. We're going to keep going for 8 or whichever, or the 7th game here. And again, the first 2 minutes are very slow. It's going to be an armory direct attack, we see. Wall has been breached open. Retero drones from the Flores operators going through the bomb site. Newers gets a kill!
He did it!
He did it! Rexon off the board. 5v5 now enabled. Everyone's got a kill.
Well played by Newers to get that very first kill. Nobody in the basement anymore. I mean, Newers still needs to get a few more, but that's a big first pick. 1 nade still available, all 3 adrenal surges as well with 40 seconds to go, and he picks up to number 2. I don't know what this timeout has done, but now his coverage of Dream getting the diffuser down, that will be the main focus. Grixer will take the engagement himself. Down goes Newers, no adrenal surges to be used, none to be spared as Grixer looks for another, but they elude him. Super's there for backup. The focus for OXG onto that main armory breach, but it's a split push now. As Foxay takes down Kansan and Super falls to Vertical, Grixer in a 1-man stand to try and stop match point, but he cannot. OXG breaks the 3-round streak, and they're on match point with 1 round to go.
Yeah, that first kill is the hardest. Newers gets 2 in 1 round and was a really good adaptation from RXG to do that split attack at the tail end of the attack. Basically not making sure that not everything comes from one angle, where the yokai was, the bulletproofs, etc. The side of Soniqs actually had so much information that round. They had a yokai above the half wall that was giving yellow pinks information the entire time. So when Newers went for a grenade cook, they said, yo, swing this guy, it's a free kill. And we saw them do exactly that, find some kills, and it looked like a possible clutch for Grixer for a short moment there, but shut down by OXG. And this might be our final round or our final defense from Soniqs in this half because, well, we gotta go OT if Soniqs want to see another round in this game.
Which is good if you're an Oxygen fan because you still pick up points in overtime.
You do.
Every single point matters. And the landscape right now of the NA League, if you didn't watch the first couple games, I apologize. Obviously, we have to spoil the results for you. But OXG sits at 14 points. Astralis at 17. That's Astralis in first place overall and have effectively clinched a spot to go to that major. Mathematically, they haven't yet. But it seems extremely unlikely that they won't. XZ in second with 15 points. OXG 14 points. And Beast Coast in fourth with 13 points.
Surprises across the board.
Dark Zero in fifth with 12 points and Space Station with 11 points. So there is a possibility that of those 6 teams, with the exception of Astralis, because they seem almost guaranteed to go at this point, any of the other 5 teams can make it. OXG will need every single point they can get. Obviously, a win is the desired outcome, but you don't want to take any chances. You don't want to take any gambles. You make it to OT, at least you get something for your troubles. As for the Soniqs, they're playing for SI points and standings in the lower portion, and that's about it. And the start of a pivotal round for them to try and stun us by taking out OXG does not go particularly well. That's a depth charge from Fox, say, as the nade blows up Yeti, and the Soniqs are down a man.
And this is where OXG are their strongest. When they play 5 versus 4, for some reason, kills always comes their way, and Newers follows up onto Rexen again. 3rd kill for him, 2 for OXG on the round, 3 versus 5 now. OXG just needs the discipline and to slow down the gameplay, to not throw a massive lead in this round, and show that for one of the first times in this entire series, they can keep the lead.
And there have been 3 instances where the Soniqs lost a number of players and still bounced back with a clutch. Twice with Kansan and once almost with Grixer. Not enough for the win, but a bounce back still to be had. There's an opportunity for it to be 4 rounds now. As the Soniqs stare down the barrel of a gun. Oxygen at just over a minute left. They've got time to work with. They'll cut through the castle barricades, the reinforcements. And the thing is, when you've got a numbers advantage the way that OXG does, you can put 2 of those players up top. This is one of those bathroom defenses where you see the Soniqs have players on the top floor. It's going to be incumbent upon Vertical, who's been a bit slower, but 2 huge kills. It leaves Super in a 1v5, but a flawless round. That's an exclamation point. OXG take it 7-5, 3 huge points for them. And their spot at the Charlotte Major seems all but secured, not mathematically so, but extremely unlikely that they won't be able to make it. This was a match they needed to win, and they did it.
That they did. And they showed us that when they get the opening kill like they did in those last 2 previous attacking rounds, that is the OXG that we love to see, that we know can play NAL, and that has been so dominant throughout the season so far. When they don't find the opening kills, however, like the first 4 attacking rounds, we saw a completely different version, and we see on our cams right now, Fox and Newers actually having a bit of a conversation here, and it's 2 very clearly different body languages where Fox here looks arguably calm and composed, and Newers looks rather uncomfortable in the situation, which of course, when you have your first bad game of your career, it's going to be hard to shake it, but I think he can do it.
Social media is a fickle beast as well. Not only do you have your own expectations, nobody's going to come into a game and expect to go 3-10, let alone 0-10, which was the case at the time. But you know that the fans are often chomping at the bit to say mean things to you on social media. It was a rough game for Newers, but the supporting cast was there. It took a Herculean effort from Vertical on a number of those rounds, but OXG gets it done. 7-5, a big 3 points for them. That's it for our 4th match of the day. We've got 1 left. We've got an interview coming up, and then the desk to break down what we saw in that matchup. We'll be back in just a moment.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming on my landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like, yeah, you about to see me on demand like, you know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor.
Welcome back to Rainbow Six North American League. Doa Jesse Jacob here with you at the desk. And over in Las Vegas, we have none other than Foxay from the winning team, Oxygen. Foxay, can you hear me, man?
I sure can.
All right, great. Well, congrats on the win today. Another one for Oxygen, but I got to say, Soniqs kind of made you work for it today, didn't they?
Yeah, no, they definitely did. We knew it wasn't going to be easy. Those guys play really well against us, and we knew that Border would match their play style really well as ours. So we just had to make sure that we were, adapting to our game and kind of trying to adapt to what they were doing and not letting those rat plays come out. But, as you saw, a lot of them did come out. So just, is what it is.
Fox, I want to talk to you a little bit about Newers because we had talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and he seemed very confident in himself, saying how he was different and just one of those entries that you have to pick up for a top team. And I think he has shown that this stage. I think he's been a very good player for you guys so far. But today, a little bit lacking on that entry role. What were you kind of as, the leader of this team saying to him midway through the game to try to get him back on track and get him kind of back in it mentally? Was there a lot of that going on?
Yeah, I mean, you guys saw it in the Parabella game. I think he was 0-8 or 1-8 until the last couple rounds, and then he dialed in for attack, and he ended up finishing, I think, with 8 kills or 10 kills or something. So it's really hard for a new player to do that and keep their momentum grinding. I think the big thing right now for him is he's realizing that he's mortal. And, I think every player, every rookie has that type of, showcase. I think a prime indicator is when we had Kino and Yug and we lost to MOBR in the first invitational that we played with them. The next season we got 6th. So I think it's great that it's happening now and we're still able to pull through as a team together. And the biggest thing that I try to tell them is, listen, doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as you're trusting your teammates and trusting the calls that we're making and you do your job, then everybody else's job will be clicked. And even if you're not getting the kills, you're putting other players in the right positions to get those kills. So yeah, there was a lot of mental fortitude that we tried to bring through. Thank God Vert was, able to go insane and, point us some rounds. So, yeah.
I know I'm paraphrasing from the first time that we had you on the interview, but it was something to the effect of we've added 2 new guys onto the core, and we're looking for these guys to be upgrades as opposed to like just side grades for Dream and Newers coming onto the roster. Now that you've had what is 7 games of not pure domination, there have been some stumbles along the way. Is this where you were thinking this team is going to end up? You have your expectations for, being really top 4 in a stage, going to a major, doing well internationally, but just from the sample size right now, are you happy with the result?
No, I don't think anybody on my team is really happy. Obviously, we were very dominant in the first couple of games, and our coach Hopes actually tweeted that when you pick up new players, like that whole it takes time to get better. It's like a lie. Like in the first couple of weeks if you're going to be good or if you're going to be trash, and like even strategical teams, like if some players just don't have it, they don't have it, and it doesn't work with the team. So we felt like we were playing above potential the first couple of games, but we knew that we could get to that point. Obviously now, like I said, we're playing a lot more human and making mistakes, and I think that comes with any new team, with the trusting each other, really believing if we're going to be there on the trading the other person's back. And I think that we definitely were going to be top 4. I think we can definitely get back to how we were playing those first 4 games, but it's a lot more of a mental battle for us than it is about getting the strats right and stuff like that every other team lies about. So yeah.
So speaking of that kind of mental battle, this particular map was very streaky. There was like a number of rounds won by one team, then a number of rounds won by another team. It was like 3 rounds, 5 rounds. There wasn't a lot of back and forth with that. So when you're in those situations, we're in those kind of losing streaks with rounds, how do you bring it back? How do you sort of keep the mental momentum on your side despite kind of losing a couple in a row?
Yeah, I swear to God, I got to be like one of the best IGLs in the game right now. Like if you think about it, like have you guys ever seen like Queen's Gambit? So there's like a scene in that where she's taking the pills and she can see the chessboard on the ceiling. So I no lie, like I build a hologram of the map in my brain of like how everything is going to happen. And it allows me to give my teammates good call outs of where to go and how to trade off of each other. And, when you got great shooters on like the ones on my team, they just, make those bullets connect and they just get to the core. So I think like we work perfectly together and gel really well based off, especially in clutch situations. I think that's where our play style thrives, of being little like gremlins and just getting our picks at where we need to.
That works. All right, Galaxy Brain Foxay with the hologram floating in front of his vision during every round. That's a cool mental image.
Yeah.
Well, congrats.
Nobody really gives me credit for being a good IGL, so y'all better start. Y'all better start.
Sounds like a Siege GG headline. I gotta be one of the best damn IGLs ever. Like I see it. I see the article getting written right now.
All right, cool. All right, the big statements. All right, so IGL of the year Foxay coming in early. Keep that in mind when you cast your ballots sometime. I don't know if we do that. On the stage at least. Oh, okay. All right.
Hopefully.
Well, on that note, thanks for joining us. Appreciate the words. Good luck in your match tomorrow, and good luck with that top 4.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good luck with the last game, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck, he says. We might need it.
We'll need. I don't think we'll need it. I don't think there'll be any trouble with like staying awake during this one. This will be a fun one, of course.
We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. But we got to break down Soniqs versus Oxygen a little bit more. This is another one that a lot of people, except for maybe Parker, were thinking was going to be a bit on the one-sided side, but not so. Soniqs put on a pretty good display today, and this is a team where if we had seen this level of play a little bit earlier in the season, things might be different. They might not be in that 9th place spot that they are not enjoying right now.
Yeah, I mean, this game ended and Parker immediately stood up from the cast and said, I was right, 7-5.
He did, it's true.
And yeah, credit to him, I guess.
You don't need to give him additional credit for the things he's already done.
Well, that's the only thing that he's predicted correctly in probably like the 4 years of his career. But
wow.
Listen,
harsh.
Coming through to this game, I definitely think we've seen Soniqs improve. And I do think that Parker was on the right train of thought there, because I do think that the Soniqs are looking better and better each play day. Even though they've lost their last 2 games, I still think they're looking like they're improving. We're seeing some really solid defenses. The players that you want to see fragging are fragging. I'm going to keep bringing it back to that. Grixer, Cans, and Rex, and the big 3 of the Soniqs all there on the top. Of course, not quite enough when you got 18 and 8 across the field. It does get a little difficult. Yep. But still, I mean, Auction a really tough opponent. I think Soniqs still played a pretty solid game. You can see they won a lot of those entry battles over on the right-hand side of the scoreboard. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for how far they've come this stage.
Yeah, I think Vertical is already kind of like days worth MVP in my head. This wasn't a stomp game, but he still put down that many frags. He put down as many kills as I think Force did in his MVP MVP performance, even though he obviously has more debts to his name. But we got to talk about Newers, at least a little bit, because as much as we've kind of put him in the position to be the tip of the OXG spear, not a bad position to be in, he's drawing a parallel for me through these 2 games where he's had like 0-and-something streaks. Remember Rin on Damwon Kia sometimes having that, like, the potential to be a crazy good fragger, but then he'll be unstable. Sometimes it won't be like following the formula that they need to. They're looking for him to be the guy leading the charge, and sometimes he's just not there. For Newers, it's still early. It's only 1 stage, but this can't be a consistent problem. If they want him to keep on being the spearhead, which I think they want because they understand his gun skill, they just need these to figure out where the rut is and how to get him out of it, because if this persists and they end up going to the major and suddenly Newers doesn't show up, then can they rely on Vertical to get 18 kills every game? That kind of thing is just, that isn't sustainable over time.
I mean, I think it is encouraging at least that Oxygen is the type of team where if somebody does have a bad day like Newers, you know, there is enough on the team to pick up the slack for that. And that's something really important. I mean, you talk about carries on your team, right? And you can't have just one. If you only have one and they have a bad day, then your whole team has a bad day, right? Oxygen at least in a position where Newers can have a day where he only comes home with 3 kills, but they still take the win.
100%. And I think, like, Soniqs across the board are like the perfect kind of counterexample of that, where like they don't have a whole lot of players that can jump in and get involved with the frags. Obviously, you know, they're getting a little bit more engaged now, but still, it can be tough.
True enough. Well, let's take a look at a couple rounds in particular from that last map. The first one is going to be round number 5, and this is going to be one where I believe Dream ended up coming out with a 3K in this one actually, but suffice to say it went okay for Oxygen.
Yeah, I think that this is just a bit of a misplay from Soniqs not clearing down below. Fox able to deny the kit. At this point in time, right before that C4, that gunplay, Soniqs were up in a 5v3, right? And when you have that type of advantage and you want to go for an execute, don't just plant default, which is what we saw Super doing there. When you've got that man advantage, you've really got to work it to swarm the site and take control of that. They've got Kansan in a great position to go for a pinch here, right? They can push pretty deep into this bomb site, but instead, they just try to get right inside the door and get the kit down, of course, without an OSA as well. That just gets so difficult, and so what I would have liked to see them do is instead use all 5 of those bodies, push really deep, try to deal with Vertical there, which is much easier said than done. Instead, they went for a plant, and that meant the bottom floor players were easily able to take him down.
You think on a map like Border that still forces defenses to play off-site as much as it does, that you'd be able to know where Foxy is at any given moment. If it's drone work, if it's just swarming site, whatever it might be, because we've drawn the parallel between Yeti and Foxy for the way that they like to conduct those late flanks sometimes. And in that case, if it's not for the Nitro and him playing down below in vents, you probably get off a free plant, but that's the catalyst overall, because everything else from Soniqs was set up to allow Super to get the plant down, and so often we see if for some reason he can't get it down, what does the team do? Because they're prepping for that Super protection detail, get diffuser down, and then you worry about the rest of the round from there, but because it gets disrupted in the midst of that, it felt like they didn't really have the method to adapt again to be able to win that one.
Yeah, exactly. The ability to pivot and shift on the fly is something that is tough when you have an IGL that's so prepared, right? You can almost be over-prepared.
He's got the hologram, man. He said it himself.
Exactly, yeah. So let's go on to round number 9. And for this one, oh boy, we have another telestration prepared. We're going to send Jesse right over there to do it, putting on the telestration glasses again.
He looks like he's putting on like science goggles for an experiment.
This is where Superman goes back to being Clark Kent for just a moment, just to nerd out and kind of give us the information instead of show us the super plays, right?
Well, we're going to hope that we get a super telestrator here that's going to work with us. Because what I want to show you guys is a basic setup of how to hold bathroom on Border. Because this is a bomb site that I feel is really poorly understood in the kind of like casual high rank community. And so I think that Soniqs did an excellent job of setting this one up. And I want to showcase some important things for you. So we'll pull up the pen and we'll highlight a few key things on the top floor. First thing to notice, of course, is Rexon playing inside this break room. And what he's able to do here is he's able to kind of play in and around break all the way back up to 90. What's important is to deny kind of this access, right up here on kind of the catwalk, and deny this sort of whole square area from being able to pull in above. Couple key features that they've got going on: castle barricade over here into security, reinforcements around 90, more castle barricades over towards the open area. All of this utility being used really effectively to try to keep Rexon safe, because you don't want to see Rexon getting fragged on this top floor and getting cleared out, because he's the big player that can put that pressure on the big open area here, Visa, in case something goes wrong for Soniqs and Auction start to push that way. So you can see the mute jammers as well being utilized here, castle barricades being put up all around him. And this is a great shot of kind of the utility that he's playing with. Once we kind of zoom out from this as well, we're going to be able to see a little bit more barricade over by B keepers too. And there's pressure on this, right? I mean, certainly Oxygen are not stupid. They know how to try to counter this. I want to showcase a couple of things here. You just saw one of the things there. Awesome. Take a look at the hatches they've managed to open up. What we've got going on here is, we'll switch to yellow. We've got this hatch being opened up over in archives. That's where they can drop down and play in the ventilation. We'll see why that's important later. And the other hatch that's on this top floor, reinforced. Boom. This is because this one's directly over site, and this is the one that Oxygen are going to want to jump down. So pay attention here. When you're up in ranked, these are the ones that you're going to want to be reinforcing and opening. As we go farther into this replay, and we'll be able to get a good shot of the basement, of the bottom floor for this setup, there's the second kind of key to this, because once you stop holding this top floor, you still need some downstairs players, and you may notice just from the outlines of the Soniqs here, nobody's actually in the site. There's nobody currently playing in and around that bomb site. So once we kind of go down and we can see what's happening on this main floor, you'll see how they managed to hold on to the main floor without actually playing inside of it. Because there are players down there on the main floor, right? They may not be directly inside the bathroom, the teller's bomb sites there, but they're still trying to have an impact. And what we see from that as Rexon moves down the stairs, our camera will as well. Take a look at all these sight lines at 134 that they've got going horizontally. This whole wall is opened up, and actually this whole wall up in ventilation also open, and you can see these players. They're just gonna try to take it and hold long angles all the way through the hallway if they have to, all the way into sight. And what this does is it allows them to be safe from those players up above who might be able to get into open, who might be able to have some vertical pressure, or even just getting into Visa, and deny those plant positions without being in the site itself. And this is a very default way of holding us, but I do feel that it's slightly poorly understood. But keeping control of where those reinforcements, castle barricades, mute jammers are going on the top floor, and also keeping track of sort of where those angles are open on this main floor and where you should be playing is really important to successfully holding this bomb site.
Fascinating. All right. Well, thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
Hey, you know what? It's
What
like
are you thanking him for?
like-
He didn't do anything. He just listened to you.
Thank him for thanking me.
Well,
I don't know, I'm
no,
Canadian.
you know, we're just all very thankful that we're here again in the studio, and we're very happy. You know, when you take off the glasses, it's almost like you become a different person. It is kind of a Superman thing. It was like, who's that?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you should create an alter ego that does the telestrations. That you're not Jesse.
Next stage, I'm getting evil with it. Next stage, the mustache comes through, the laugh comes through. Just wait.
All right.
Look, man, I just remember the one time that there's a gap in my memory from I think I was supposed to do a telestration segment, and then some guy in a wig came out.
I heard about that.
Yeah. Literally just completely blacked out when that happened, and I don't remember what.
So that's more like, so he's got more like the alter ego thing. You've got more like the Jekyll and Hyde thing.
Kind of. Yeah, I think if I can get that diagnosed, that'd be great, because
we'll work on
that segment was a fever dream.
We'll work on that during the break. On that disturbing note, don't go anywhere, because we will be back with our final match of the day. It's going to be Space Station Gaming taking on Parabellum, another one very important for the standings, so do not miss it. R6 NAL, back in a few.